Now, Pac-12 players have taken their petition public on Sunday with a list of demands related to health and safety, racial injustice, and economic rights. They say they will opt out of the season if their demands are not addressed. And that began what has been a remarkable week in the sport. Yesterday, UConn became the first FBS program to suspend its football season due to the pandemic. Our Mark Schleybaugh says UConn has been one of the most cash-strapped programs in the FBS. And then later that day, players from the Big Ten published a list of demands as well. Unlike the Pac-12, the Big Ten group does not plan to opt out at this point, but is mostly focused on health and safety issues. And so we put together a group to talk about this here this morning. Ryan Clark, Domonique, and Paul Finebaum joins us. So, Paul, let me get a quick thought from you to begin, because I know you talk about college football on your show all day long, every day. What is your primary takeaway from all the news, particularly of yesterday?
Well, I don't think UConn had a trickle-down effect, but there are still so many pockets of problems. And Greeny, I talked to a friend of yours yesterday on the program, Teddy Greenstein from the Chicago Tribune, and he has covered that league for a long time. He predicted that the Big Ten will not open. They're scheduled to open September 3rd. So that, to me, was a shocking revelation from a very respected reporter.
And so that's one of two conferences, Ryan Clark, yesterday or over the course of this week that have come forward with a list of demands. The other, as we mentioned, is the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. Your son plays in that conference, or whatever that is worth. What is your perspective as you see all this happening?
I think my perspective is, especially being a union guy, I think this is good. I think this is an opportunity for these players to capitalize on the moment. And I don't mind them asking for what I think in some senses is too much. I think but they should be protected. They should be able to voice their opinion on social justice issues, and they want some more money. I don't necessarily believe that they'll get it, but I do believe they have now taken the stand and said that we deserve certain things and we have a voice. And if not now, then when? Now, what I do know is there are many players in the Pac-12 that want to play. There are many players who don't want to see this season not happen, but I have talked to some of them. My son's best friend is a senior at Stanford, and those guys said, even though I don't necessarily look towards opting out, I respect what these other players are doing. I support them, and I will not publicly say anything that could hurt their cause. But people want to play. They just want to play the right way. And there are some schools, when you look at the Arizona States, at least I know personally, who are supporting these players and whose players still say, we want to play and we understand this fight. And so I think this is going to be very interesting. I don't necessarily know where it goes from here, but this is the time for the players to step up, and I hope they get some of what they're asking for.
Nick, how important is this in your mind?
I mean, I think it's incredibly important. This is the biggest and most aggressive labor push that the players have had in college sports, I think, in their history. And I think it's important for us to take a moment to recognize that these guys are taking a big risk. The guys who are putting themselves in this situation are taking a big risk. As much as we celebrated what Colin Kaepernick sacrificed to bring our attention to some racial injustice, I think we need to recognize that what a lot of these players are putting online is just as big, if not bigger, than what he put on the line for an issue of not just their health and safety, but also racial justice, because it is a redistribution of wealth in some sense when you go find predominantly black athletes in these Power 5 conferences in the major two sports, and you bring them to an institution where they generate billions of dollars worth of revenue, and then they are not properly compensated. And I think this moment, COVID-19, what's happening right now, it really brings into light the farce that is amateurism, and we should stop pretending that these guys aren't employees, because we know what happens. A lot of employees are forced to come into situations that are not necessarily the safest in order to keep jobs and keep businesses flowing. That's what's happening right now. These situations, no matter what testing regimen they put in, are inherently unsafe. They are not as safe as the kids would be staying at home. And if their scholarships are in jeopardy because they are coming in to participate in this in football, which will generate the revenue that allows a lot of these institutions to stay solvent, if they're doing that, let's stop pretending that they're not employees. They are employees, and their health and safety should be protected while they're there and while they're gone, and they should be fairly compensated.
In any other circumstance, we would call them essential workers. But Paul, what, if any, role does the NCAA play in this, and what is their perspective on it all, you think?
I'm so glad you asked me that, Greeny, because in the Big Ten proposal yesterday from the players, they called out the NCAA, calling the NCAA showing a lack of leadership, saying they have not made any presentations about their safety. Later, the NCAA put something out, but I thought it was remarkable that young players called the NCAA out for its incompetence while their leaders, their athletic directors and their commissioners have not said a word. It was an extraordinary moment.
Yeah, this is a time of great change in so many different ways and so many different places. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.